What's up? I'm Drew Paul Bell, and in this video, what I want to talk about is mentorship. And now, before we get into this video, this one is actually part of a monthly blog post thing with several other architecture bloggers called ArchiTalks. And in this kind of series, everybody posts on the same time about common topics, and it's really cool to get to see different architects' perspectives on different ideas. And so the one this month is on mentorship. And what I want to do in this video is talk about some of the mentorship advice that I got from a mentor that I had through the AIA when I was in college, and his name was Bill Abali, so shout out to Bill. And he gave me kind of this document where he kind of had me like list out things that I wanted to do in my career, and then how strengths and weaknesses of mine, and how to go about achieving those desires for my career. So today I'm just gonna kind of go over this with you guys, and then you can like write this down in your sketchbook. I highly recommend that you write it down, write down these things, because in the same way that when you're designing a building, you have to get the idea out of your head so you can objectively look at it. It helps to do the same thing with your own goals, to help you be clear with what you want, and then to help you achieve those things. So first, let's crack into the very first thing that he said to talk about. Number one was, what is your interests? And within this, he said, divide this up into two different categories: architectural interests, kind of like your career things, the external type of stuff, as well as your internal interests, the things that you personally want, the things that kind of would make you feel more fulfilled in your life, okay? So in your architectural column, you might have something like design high-rises, right? Or maybe you want to design residential, or maybe you want to do mid-sized buildings. Define like what you want in that regard. Maybe you have a particular style of design that you want to work on. Maybe that's modern or contemporary design. Maybe you want to do traditional design. Pick whatever that is and list out those things. And also, don't be afraid to aim high. This isn't something that you have to achieve like tomorrow or next year. This is something like ultimate career goal. Where do you want to be? What kind of stuff do you want to be working on? Then you also want to talk about your internal desires. And so these are going to be things that kind of mean more to you personally. What are your architectural career goals, and what are your personal goals, your internal goals? What kind of relationships do you want to have? How do you want things to, what kind of social life stuff do you want to have going on for yourself? All right, so that was number one. Number two is write down your strengths and your weaknesses. And these strengths might be, consider, for example, design capabilities, consider like technical knowledge about architecture. Maybe there are certain topics like sustainability, or structure and math, or maybe it's drawing, maybe it's presentation abilities and presentation skills, right? Maybe it's the speed at which you work, right? Are you fast? Are you a slow worker? Are you methodical and thorough? Are you quick and miss things, all right? Like, be able to identify what your strengths and what your weaknesses are. Spend some time kind of evaluating yourself. And I mean, in doing this, I also think that it would be helpful to even consult professors or friends or people that know you. Try to just get some feedback and just take it with a grain of salt, right? And be in a good headspace when if you're going to ask somebody, be in a good headspace to take criticism about what your strengths and weaknesses are. But I also think that you yourself probably know a lot of what your own strengths and weaknesses are. So just write those down and objectify them. Be able to look at so that you can look back at these later and kind of take it all in and not just get caught up in any one or two. Objectively write those down. So that was number two. Number three is, how are you going to improve your skills so that you can achieve your interests? Consider two different areas that you can take action on this, right? Consider research and experiences. Okay, so how are you going to research? Let's say that like presentation skills, what might have been one of your challenges. How are you going to research presentation skills? Well, you might go on like Pinterest or Tumblr, pull out kind of what has worked and what you like, and then maybe you're going to go experiment with making that and try actually doing it. Go into buildings that you find exciting and draw them. Just kind of like what you did back in first year, right? Just take out the sketchbook and draw spaces, and that's a great way to see buildings and spaces better than just walking through them. So are you going to travel, right? Identify through these two methods, right? How are you going to improve? Through research and experiences. Research and experiences. How are you going to use those two things to then improve your strengths and weaknesses? And by the way, also consider, are you going to improve your strengths, or are you going to improve your weaknesses? Now, you can do both. I actually think that I think the best balance is to really focus on improving your strengths. I would rather be like the best in the world at a couple things rather than be like a jack of all trades and a master of none. And as architects, we kind of position ourselves to where our career is very similar to being like that, right? A jack of all trades and a master of none, because we have to coordinate and talk to a lot of different people. So I think that it's best to still focus on building up your strengths primarily, but also secondarily, focus on improving your weaknesses just to a level of competence, or just to a level of just enough to be dangerous. You don't have to take something that you're bad at and become the best in the world at it. Like if you're not good at math, then you don't have to be the best in the world at math to do architecture. Like, know enough to be dangerous. You have to know how to, if you want to become a licensed architect, if that's one of your interests, you're gonna have to be able to pass the structures questions on the ARE, and you're gonna have to be able to know how to calculate square footages and costs. There's a certain level of math that you're gonna have to be able to do, but that doesn't mean you have to be the best mathematician in the world. That's definitely not what's required to be good at architecture. And I just think that the idea of focusing on your strengths primarily, but then also on your weaknesses just enough to be competent, is a very effective way to kind of judge out how you're gonna improve those strengths and weaknesses. Number 4 is planning. How do you plan to actually execute on those interests of yours? Say one day you wanna run a firm. What are you gonna do now that's gonna help you eventually one day open your own firm or run your own firm? That might involve, if you're in college, that might involve going and getting a minor in business. It might involve speaking to somebody who's an architect at a small firm and talking to them about how they run their business. The goals that you wrote down at the beginning, right? Your architectural and internal goals. Come up with a long-term plan for that. And then number 5 is the long-term plan, right? So in number 4, where you're talking about your plan for the next week, the next couple of days, the next year really is kind of what number 4 is about. Number 5 though is about coming up with a long-term plan. What's your 5-year plan, your 10-year plan, your 15-year plan? If we mentioned maybe if you want to run your own firm, maybe you need to experience firms of different sizes at different times. Maybe part of your 10-year plan is that after 10 years you worked at least 2 different firms of varying sizes. At what point in time have you studied to pass all your ARE exams? At what point have you gotten your license? It's good to have these goals, okay? And this is also about setting these long-term goals as sort of checkpoints towards achieving those interests that you wanted. A lot of people actually don't know what they want. And it seems obvious. Everybody thinks, oh, of course I know what I want. It is what I want. But sometimes it actually gets confusing, right? In your own mind, it's hard to actually sort everything out and say, well, what do you want the most? Because sometimes you want to sit around and eat candy and sit on Facebook, right? But maybe if you really compared that, how badly you want that versus how badly you want to build an architecture firm, right? Which one of those is really more rewarding, right? And if you don't write that down, you don't objectively look at that kind of thing, then it becomes difficult to actually achieve your goals. You're not going to accidentally achieve your goals. I think that you're not going to accidentally back into having accomplished something that you really, really wanted. I think that it comes from working really hard at being clear and identifying what it is exactly that you want, and then striving to get that on a day-to-day level, on a year-to-year level, on a 10-year, 15-plan level. Okay, so I hope that this video helps. Again, this video is part of a monthly blog post series where several other architects blog about their own perspective on the same topic. So we all release these blog posts at the same time. So I'm going to include a link to everybody else's blog post down below. I think it's great to get different perspectives on the same ideas. I think that really great content comes out of this system. So check out the ArchiTalks blog posts. I hope that this all helps. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time.